running there at the live stream center.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
That wind is something.
Is that where you put that? Yeah. Okay, no, I think what this is, the two of them together. That's the update. Okay. It should be 04. I didn't bring that up because I was coming through the class. So we're at 04. Well, it depends on how they want to do it. Yep, depends on how they want to do it. It's up to them.
Good, sir. How's it going? Good. How are you? We got something out there.
What?
What's that? Good.
Good.
Oh, we do.
Do it?
I'm ready for spring.
Oh, very good. I was telling them I was down in 2 weeks up in Florida.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because I want to go down there for spring training
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
baseball team, so
Yeah.
we're going to go down.
Cool.
So, yeah, just for a week.
Good. That's
Getting
good.
into the warm weather.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, that's fine.
I think this is from their office. I don't know if you want the hard copy. It's been in the folder for quite a while. It's not here now.
Yeah, I'll take it. Sure. Thank you.
Do we have any agendas?
I think she's still working on it.
So I'm just my way here.
tell you that the stop sign at Mount Rack is,
Yeah. I'm waiting for it to get a little less unfrozen.
I mean, I
Yeah,
can
he
look.
did. There's another one that somebody, I think, ran through the stop sign. And,
Didn't work as a stop.
they ran it over. Not to the point where it's like totally over, but we gotta fix it. Thank you.
Yeah, regular. Yeah.
She's holiday.
That's fine, but just pass them out.
They're getting ready to
They're just gonna say they're getting ready to go.
Yeah.
So we'll explain why.
We'll know
we
more
still
about
do it.
pricing on
Give us
those
a-
in about 2 months.
Well, maybe.
My thing is, honestly,
Yeah, we
with the situation we're having,
it's gonna
we
have
build a
to
bigger
be
one,
agenda, because it.
so we can store more.
But it's always a living.
Oh, I don't think.
What we got, this for me?
And this is yours, so it's just like the fee schedule is a separate handout.
Say it again.
It's the fee schedule was a separate handout, this is yours also.
That's the fee schedule that was essentially unamended last year. That was sent out about 2 weeks ago. It's the same one that was sent out 2 weeks ago.
We had to do a couple, make sure everything's together, so essentially, yes, I think there was one page that was missing. And then we had to actually ask them to send us a couple of updates to make sure that we want 2020.
This is yours. Yeah,
Oh, we'd like to be in the loop. Yeah.
Do you want me to speak to that one? It's in your notes for that, but I'll speak to it for the declaration.
That's fine.
There we go, it's another piece on your figure. I mean, most people.
Colin, have you seen this declaration?
I have, I know it's circulated throughout the county.
You see ours in specific?
Yeah,
It's like mind over matter.
I guess the question I've posed to other clients who have presented this to me is, what does it actually accomplish if there's no salt to purchase, regardless of whether we use the procurement process or not?
It really comes back to a reimbursement process at this point. So if I'm purchasing at twice the current rate, which is what we're doing, we're 150 a ton, then I could potentially, the state has refund available, or funds available to recoup those funds, that's why.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay.
There's no end date on that, no end time on that.
I think
We don't know when we're
It's gonna be when they have it, you can't get what they
Well,
don't have, don't you
Can you hear me, sir?
understand?
Declaration
Okay,
for
great.
emergency
What's that from, Jeff?
7 days, I think
Bigger
7
than
days.
yours.
What's that?
That's by law. That's by law.
by law, and then it has to be renewed thereafter.
So this is really only good for 7 days?
Okay, Howard.
Sir?
Alright, call to order the February workshop meeting for Robeson Township with pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for the military and first responders.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Folks, I know most of you know, but we are live streaming. Stay on throughout the meeting.
Alright, roll call. Ms. Bridenstine? Here. Alright, Scott?
Hey, still free.
Chris? Mr. Miller? I'm here. And I'm here. Alright, citizens' concerns. Do we have any concerns this evening? No? Cool. Alright, correspondence.
Okay, in your packets, correspondence we have is some PSAT's upcoming training, in-person courses, PSAT's news bulletin, a couple of other pieces, Show Me the Money, Trustees Insurance Retirement Services, Road Bridge Safety Improvement Award Program, and then Morgantown Village Library, their President's Day celebration. So all of you in the packet. Did actually attend one of those trainings the last couple of days, which was very good. It was the Zoning Officers Academy, provided a lot of great information. Make sure I scan everything in, I'll provide a synopsis when I have an opportunity next week too.
Okay. Alright, any questions on that? Alright, Chief Ruby.
Good evening, Board. First on my agenda I have would be to purchase the new tasers. I would like to hold off on that again. We're still going back and forth with Axon to try to get a better price and possibly a different taser.
Okay.
We have also recently found out that we'll be able to sell some of our tasers back to help mitigate some of the fines. So that's something that we want to look into too, because I know we have at least 4 that currently not being used, that are not working correctly. So we got to contact the place in Florida and just see what they'll offer for them.
Okay.
The next is the dog kennel placement. We received the dog kennels downstairs. They have to be put together. I just wanted to know where the board would like to have them set up at.
Question for you. Are you gonna concrete them, or are you gonna put them on the ground?
That would be up to the board.
The reason I'm saying that is because depending on what dogs go in there, they're gonna dig, they're gonna go under, and they're gonna aggravate you.
Yeah.
And I
What was
only
the
know it
size,
from
what was
mine.
the size of them? You remember?
They're 8x10, aren't they?
No, so we actually purchased 2 of them, and they were 8 foot by 4 foot by 6 foot. So they're 8 foot long, 4 foot wide, 6 foot high. And the reason we purchased 2 of them, in case we have 2 dogs and do not get along, we have 2 different ones there. So you're looking at, if you're gonna do a concrete slab, I'm not a mason, but obviously a foot or 2 bigger than 8 foot by 8 foot. If that's what you're planning on.
Well, I'm just suggesting it because I don't want you to be aggravated.
Yeah.
If dogs are put in there, because mine all have had, I haven't had anybody escape from mine.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm just kind of giving you a heads up so you're not aggravated, that it's probably in your best interest to put something down.
That would be up to the board if you would like to look into that.
Do you want me to find out what concrete is? Because we can't really pour yet.
If you guys would like to have that done, whereabouts would you
Yeah, I was
like?
gonna say, where would we place something like that?
Somewhere that there's a camera so you can see there's nobody causing us any grief, like torture, pesting the dogs or creating a problem. So I'd have to go out back and look. I can come down next week and look with Jason and see what's gonna be an optimal spot to put it.
Yeah, see, I don't know where, everything that's happening with the gas pumps and everything, or where the tanks are. But the way the cameras are set up, the public works building in the back there, We're able to see that, they kind of be out of the way, there's no doors on the side there.
Right.
If it's any
Go ahead, Barry.
help,
Yeah.
there is, I mean, by the size that you're describing, we could potentially put them inside the building, inside, I mean, obviously there's no heat, there's no air conditioning, but there's a concrete floor, you know, if you make a mess, you can wash it off, so on and so forth. It's not like the whole entire bay is gonna get used for a dog kennel.
How hot does it get in there in summer?
Actually, it doesn't get hot at all because of the concrete floor, it stays kinda cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, my guys lay on the floor.
But then like the caveat to it is, you know, wintertime it's cold in there.
Yeah, but,
I mean,
it's gonna be cold, but my.
it's not like the dogs are gonna live in there for days on end. hopefully.
No, and, I mean, my kennel, my guys are on a concrete floor.
It's just an option if,
I've got it 53 degrees, so, and I'm sure your back area somewhere has got some kind of warmth to it.
like I said, it's just an option, just throwing it out.
Yeah, but,
Why don't you, when you go down, why don't you go look at that area?
well,
there as
I'll talk to both of them.
Yeah.
Won't be till like Wednesday next week.
Obviously, we have to get access to the building, but that would be part of it. The next agenda I have on the list is discussion of the locker room. So the officers came to me and discussed possibly making a locker room downstairs where the lockers are now. Something that they could keep a little bit cleaner than what's down there, and they could have a little bit more privacy when they change their uniforms and stuff like that. I believe there should be about $5,114 left over from the building maintenance line from 2024, from when we have our painting and our pressure washing and stuff done. And the officers were wondering if the board would consider having somebody come in to see what that would cost and go from there. What they're looking, we went down there and we kind of measured it out. So it's just going to be an L wall. We're going to come off the back wall 22 feet, and then we're going to go over 12 feet. So it's going to kind of mirror the records room there with a door in place, and just like a drop ceiling. That's it.
I don't blame anybody for wanting privacy. At this point, you don't have any women. That doesn't mean at some point you won't.
That's exactly correct. And we would need to have some place where it's able to be locked for them to change.
And be respectful of everybody's privacy, which I think everybody deserves.
Chris, you have any comments on that?
No, I'd say it's okay if someone, I think it would be okay if somebody looks into it and checks it out and gives us a quote or something.
Mr. Baylor, any comments?
No comment.
Okay, yeah.
You have somebody in mind?
No, I don't.
I was gonna say,
Just a quick question. Did you say we're spending 2024 money for this project?
he said he has money left over.
There's no, both should have closed. You only have 25 budget now. You can't spend last year's money.
We're not talking about $20,000. I think we can manage something to give them some kind of.
I'll review the budget with this, I think we can locate that.
Yeah.
Let's take a look first at what we believe it's gonna cost us, and I think we can find a place within the budget for it.
I was gonna say, and let me reach out to a couple different people who are doing home remodeling. Same difference.
And the last thing on the agenda is the 457 plan update. Rich and I were not able to get together today or this week. Just conflicts with our schedule to, I guess, develop the resolution for it. So we're gonna do that this coming week and have it ready for you guys at the workshop meeting.
So the regular meeting will bring the resolution. So there's the forms that need to be filled out. It's about 178 pages. Most of that is just additional data on, what plan we selected, but there's a resolution as part of that. With the salt situation on Monday, Tuesday, I didn't have an opportunity to get to with Jason, so we'll finish that up either tomorrow or Monday, and then we'll have it for the regular meeting.
Okay.
That's all I have for you.
That's all. Any comments or questions for Chief Herman? Thank you, Chief.
Okay, in your packet there for finance and other, and monthly expenses, treasury report, Surage report for your review for the meeting next week.
You need the bills with you tonight.
I did not, sir. Oh, did you have to bring them over?
Yes.
Okay.
You can look at those after the meeting.
Can't hear very well, Mr. Bittler.
I said I'd like to take a look at those after the meeting. I'd encourage this board to pay a little more attention to the details. That's just my own thoughts, so
No, I
I don't
asked
think
what
we
you,
need
I
to take
asked
the
what you
time
said.
right this second,
I
but if
didn't ask
anybody
you,
wants to, take a look at the actual bills.
I didn't
What we're
ask you to
seeing
go
is a
into
summary.
detail. I asked you to repeat what you said,
What
which
we're-
you
what
don't
we're
do.
doing and looking at a summary doesn't really give us the whole picture sometimes.
Okay, sure. All right, manager's comments?
All right, so there's a new category which we'll get to next, that's the supervisor's reports. We want to let you know we have advertised for township admin, fiscal assistant position, and again, just application due October 19th. Don't have an update for it. I think we have 7 or 8 applications right now. I think one came in today. Again, I haven't had a chance to download and print that, so we'll give you more details as soon as that wraps. You should have also received today, indication, or yesterday actually, the re-advertisement for the RFP for CPA. I believe there was at least one bidder for that, but I have not had a chance to jump into Penbid and find out what that was, or it may have been 2. I do know for sure there was one, which I believe was the one that had bid before.
And when does that close?
That closed actually on the 12th, so you should now be able to go in, you should be able to go in and actually review the documents. The way the bonfire system works is that it will not allow you to view anything until the bid closes. So we set it for the 12th, which gives you the weekend then to look at it and maybe go do it on Monday.
For those folks that are interested in the Penn bid, it's the first time we used it, and I don't feel it was very successful or beneficial. This represents what the response was from the Penn bid. And
Did you
it's
print
certainly not, in my opinion, the best way to go about it.
Did you print those out? Does that mean we can look through what you printed?
I'm not sure I heard the question.
I said, did you print those out? And since you have them sitting there, are they there for us to look at?
You can look at them anytime. I'm assuming, we were set up as administrators.
I didn't-
I'm not really sure why.
I didn't
but-
ask that.
But
I
I think
asked-
these, I'd ask our solicitor that question. I think these are basically public information at this point. The bid period's done. We've not accepted any. It doesn't look like we're likely to. What I'm saying is this is a failed system.
I'm
It's a
asking,
failed effort again.
again, you don't answer questions. You just rattle. I said, can we look at them? Okay?
You already have them.
No, I don't have them printed out.
You already have,
I have
access to
access.
everything,
I didn't
Mr.
say I didn't.
So what's the reason that you think it's a failure? I mean, we got
I
a lot
think,
of
like, I would
responses.
give you an example. Give you an example. When you look at certain of the bids and you review those, there'll be times when only, I'll say, national contractors will bid things because they're geared into that system. A lot of the local people, a lot of the people, smaller people that I'd like to encourage, kind of, pass that over. Some of our people, like I saw Craft Codes was in, some of our people that are, I'll say, in the know, get that, and they participate, but there's a lot of other people that were not. I also think that we should be careful. Part of the issue we're going to talk about after bid is going to be the fee schedule. And when you look at the fee schedule, this is the fee schedule where we pass on costs to our residents. So when you look at that,
We're not in
this
that
is
now.
Union's, Exeter's, and Carnarvon's ordinance and their fee schedule. And when you compare and contrast, you're comparing and contrasting what our vendors are charging, but it's still up to us as a township, when possible, to negotiate, as best a deal as possible.
Right.
So this is a, in my opinion, the proper way to look at the administration of the township.
If you have people who are interested, why didn't you be considerate enough to give them the information? Since you seem to be concerned about it, I would have thought you would have reached out to them if it was an issue, Mr. Bitler. You don't have a problem any other time.
I'm not sure if that's a question or a
Yeah, it was a
comment.
question. Why didn't you reach out to them if you felt that was the issue? Instead of considering it failed, why not encourage
It
people
was
to
failed from the
utilize it?
beginning and not timely. And I do reach out to people, but it's not a question of what I reach out to, it's gotta be open to the general public.
It is
Well, just in any event, when a project is bid publicly, the township should not be individually soliciting bids from certain contractors, because it could influence the process.
But you can make them aware that the bidding process is going on. It should be on our website, which is a whole nother issue.
Okay.
You agree with that? You can make them.
Well, there's there's certainly a fine line to walk between encouraging a contractor to bid and making them aware, and that line's not always clear. And then just to respond to your initial question, the bid documents become public when they're open.
So they were
Does that
public,
coincide with when our bidding process ends?
Yeah, typically
Being closed?
they're closed, opened, and awarded or rejected on the same day, at the same time.
Okay, well, I think we need to do something different next year and more
So,
advanced.
like, when it was entered into pen bid, speaking to a vendor directly, telling them that we have RFPs out there in pen bid is valid or not valid?
it's walking the shady
Yeah,
line is what he's telling you.
it's a gray area. You know, I typically don't recommend the township do it because to the extent, you know, what happens when another contractor says, well, you didn't reach out to me and I wanted to bid on it, right? So
That's true.
it just creates an issue. I don't, you know, I understand that it happens. I don't always necessarily encourage it, but, yeah.
I would note, however, when we made the advertisement very clearly states that it's available to them in the pen bid system. So everybody that would have received that advertisement otherwise was reviewing the newspaper for advertisements as we were required to do, is gonna see that same announcement, as they would normally, and I would expect that they would bid on those things.
All right, so we can review those, in pen bid again, the new ones that came in.
Mhm.
That was just for the accounting.
I think that was just for the auditor, yeah.
Right. And if we've only had one, it's not gonna take much of a review.
No.
Yeah.
I think it was just one, right? Yeah.
Correct, I believe it was, it may have been two for that, I just didn't have an opportunity to pen bid, they find it just a second. Then the next one here I have is discussing the request for proposal, selecting the vendors to decide upon for the ones that we know have already closed, at this point, or shall we say opened actually, that are now public. And those are the outsourced IT, engineering, general security, sewage enforcement, zoning, code, solicitor, and of course the audit's there as well, but as you know, the audit just closed yesterday, or just opened yesterday. And when the board would like to discuss those, if they would like tonight, or if they wanted to wait till everyone was present before the regular meeting on Tuesday.
How do we do a fee schedule that would be intertwined with that, would it not?
Potentially, yes, sir.
Okay, so how do we approve a fee schedule in advance? My understanding is all of the people have agreed, is that correct, you two gentlemen, from your firms, you've agreed to hold the last year's fee, if you will, or last year's cost schedule.
Correct, in discussions with Rich, we agree.
All right, so it would seem to me the process is somewhat backward if we're going to be looking at other vendors at this point, and, you know, perhaps the, I don't wanna say easiest or short circuit is to stay with the people we have, particularly with respect to, you know, I'll say better pricing. The public should be aware that we requested Richard volunteered, our manager, to reach out to various vendors and suppliers to see what could be done about the prices. That's a change from prior years here at the township when we just kind of asked for what the next year's increase would be. Next year, if possible, we'll be able to get the process started earlier, be a little more competitive and aggressive, and maybe we can turn a few of those fees back. So one option, Jeff, is to stay with the vendors that we have, particularly if the price is locked in.
Which I don't have an issue with, I mean, there's one that, I would like to at least look at and come up with a plan, because we have cameras that were banned by the FCC, a number of months ago, maybe years ago, because they're easily hackable, which is kind of,
Not a good thing.
that's not a good thing, especially at a police department and township building, you know, so I think we should at least, you know, discuss that and figure out a plan moving forward. I agree. Because you know, they should have been updated right after the ban happened, in all reality.
Yeah, because we weren't even informed about it.
Right.
Nobody knew anything.
But, I mean, I don't have a problem if we review the fee schedule and look at that and then decide from there whether we, you know, keep the same vendors and move forward.
I thought we agreed to keep the same fee schedule until we got through figuring out what we were doing with the RFP. That was the whole purpose. We agreed to keep that fee schedule till we went through the RFPs and decided if we were gonna change anything or not. So I don't see what the fuss is, considering we already had this discussion twice in the last month. I don't see why we're having the same conversation again.
Well, you know, the fee schedule, if you look, I mean, the fee schedule all includes the engineering, sewage enforcement, zoning, code, solicitor, whatever. So if we did the fee schedule, it's really gonna deal with what who we appointed in reorganization.
Correct.
So if you look at the resolution here, you know, number one, it would keep everything would be fixed, which includes engineering, subdivision, land development and zoning, building, plumbing, zoning, et cetera, sewage enforcement officer, administrative rates, request for public records and zoning hearing fees. So if we would do the fee schedule, that's what it includes.
You suggesting we do the fee schedule tonight or wait till Tuesday?
Well, it would be, you could do either, because the fee schedule would include only those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 things. It technically does not include the outsourced IT, I guess, general security.
Yeah.
And of course the auditor, which of course we're trying to get one, so, but so it would include all but the IT, security and auditor.
Well, then let's look at it till Tuesday.
This evening, which include all our major group there.
Let's look at it Tuesday then.
Why are we gonna look at it Tuesday? We just had the discussion about, we discussed it last month, twice, we're discussing it again, and he just said, we agreed at reorg that we were utilizing it. So why are we gonna pussyfoot around this when it's, all you're doing is accepting what we've already accepted in January at reorg? What is the big fuss? If we change the fee schedule after we've changed or looked at other people, that's a different story. I'll make a motion that we accept the fee schedule that we made at reorg.
Rich, what resolution number would this be?
This will be number 04, sir.
Question, Jim.
I thought I just heard Ryan say they were holding their fee schedule to last year's amount.
They're holding their fees to
Okay,
last
does
year's
the
amount.
new fee schedule have an increase from last year?
No. We're accepting last year's fee schedule that we
So-
agreed to with the reorganization.
Per the board's direction, I after our last meeting, reached out to each of our vendors, spoke with them personally, asked, you know, based on our current situation, if they would be willing to keep their fees at last year's fee schedule rate. Those that I spoke to, which were part of this, or our fee schedule, all agreed to do so.
Including Konsalov's office.
That's correct, sir. Actually, theirs had not increased, I believe, at all in any case.
I think it was $5 an hour.
May not have been anything, if I
Yeah,
recall
I was
correctly.
gonna say, I don't think it
But
did.
beside, it was, I know it was the engineer, it was our sewage enforcement officer and our alternate sewage enforcement officer in particular. Their fees had gone up a little bit, in some cases about 3% overall, and they agreed that they could hold those for this year.
So it is not what was discussed in January.
It was not, no, it is not. It is the 2024 rate. The only thing that we've done is just put it into a 2025 resolution, so they know that these are the current rates. Again, 2024 rates and 2025 is what it is.
So we kept what was last year, so nothing changed.
Okay, we have a motion on the table, do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second approve the fee schedule resolution 25-04.
All right, roll call, Ms. Feinstein.
Yes.
Mr. Gallo.
Yes.
Mr. Bittler.
I'll vote no and prefer to wait till Tuesday.
Okay, Mr. Smith.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Thank you, board. All right, for F, DPAV training, one of the things that we're working our way through, and it actually ties somewhat in with G, as we discussed, one of the things that we looked at after our last meeting was taking a look at our pumps. Right now, I just sent some information yesterday on those. I think it was around 63.5 or 68.5, I think it was 63.5, for the replacement of the pumps for an upgraded model. They did recommend that we do some maintenance things on those pumps in the meantime. But part of this is also the DPA and E training. So the recommendation is, and it would be myself, Mr. Reddinger, and our acting chief would go to the training. That way we can then do the C training, which is the actual general operator training. But we want to make sure we have some depth in that, and make sure somebody's always available to do so. That'll actually come up at the end of February. I think it's February 28th is the training date for that, and then the three of us will attend a day-long training. We'll be ready to roll with that afterwards. So one of our requirements is to do the annual C training for everybody else here in the township. I actually want to thank Mr. Gullo because he brought that to our attention. We were in line with it. We just want to make sure that, again, we have the depth of training. Again, we'll discuss this more, I believe, on Tuesday, unless you'd like to discuss it a little bit more tonight. I just was able to get it out the other day, was the fuel pump replacement upgrade information. One thing I'd like to know is the tanks are coming up close to their 30-year life cycle, so that's something we're going to have reviewed. Now, that does not necessarily mean that those tanks aren't valid and in good condition. It's just that that's something we'll probably have to review, and it might be an insurance issue for us down the line, so we'll have to look at that.
Definitely.
Next thing I have on here is for our tax collector percentage increase. Currently, our tax collector collects 1.25% on all taxes collected. That comes out to about $16,000 per annum. For her, that includes all of her associated costs. What we're proposing here is a percentage increase, and this would have to be done either tonight or on Tuesday night at the latest. Is from 1.25% to 1.75%. Looking at the ones in the local area, most of those are actually closer to 2%, but we felt that 1.75% is appropriate. That would be a $6,000 per annum increase. The reason I'd like to put that in front of you this evening is that she's done a really fantastic job. She's had a 0% error rate, from my understanding, from talking to the county. The other thing I'd like to point out is that she is exceptionally available to our residents. At all times, willing to take their phone calls. She's taking them at her house, as well as obviously she's got dates inside the office. So she's done an absolutely fantastic job for us. Carrie, I know you're here tonight. Is there anything you'd like to add to that? Again, I think you've just done amazing work for us.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Just that it's time for me to run again, and obviously costs associated with this job are going up. I don't really submit anything. I eat the costs, especially like if residents call and ask for receipts when they didn't send in a
Self-addressed envelope.
yeah, self-addressed stamped envelope. I do it. It's fine. It's on me. I feel like that's what I do. I have residents that call and ask me to come to their house to pay. I do it. Over Christmas alone, between Christmas and New Year's, I had 12 residents in my home paying their tax bills. Sometimes I have to kick them out because they're in it too long. No, I'm just kidding. I enjoy that. My kids have met a lot of great people that way, but I do feel that I make myself very available to the residents. And this is I'm gonna run again, so I'll be going in, this is my 8th year as the tax collector here in Robeson. Never asked for anything, so I'm looking to go pick up my packet tomorrow, run again, so I thought I'd ask, and it has to be done by the 18th, because if anyone else is running for tax collector, the rates have to be in place before that.
And you've already allowed it, you have your little box outside and
Oh,
everybody
in
can drop off.
2020, I added a drop box
Yep.
at my home, which was during COVID, because we weren't able to meet to collect, and my husband requested that I remove it because my driveway is like a revolving door, and people are just using it all the time. But I said, you know what, it makes sure that they're there. With the mail the way it is today, people call and say, hey Carrie, I don't want to put it in the mail, can I just put it in your Dropbox? And honestly, it works. So probably this year I collected 300 at my house, or maybe even more. Yeah, people use it all the time. And it's fine because it gets to me then. We have a camera on it, so it's great.
Yeah, it's a whole lot better if I mail it.
Absolutely.
I don't know that you're ever gonna see it.
And again, with the mail the way it is, we ran into that quite a few times this year. People will call and say, why are you holding my check? And I'm like, I don't have it.
Get it.
correct,
Oh, you know how many mailboxes we see open?
And we
yeah.
had some 2 and 3 week delays, I think, actually, I remember that during the tax season. It was pretty substantial, so she's done a lot of work to
Yeah.
make that easier on the residents.
She has,
Yeah,
Certainly, that's come back to us in the office in
Thank you.
multiple ways, so.
I appreciate that,
you know, the community's grateful for it, so
thank you.
how do you fault that you're giving them a service they're happy with?
The rate won't take effect until after the next election.
Right.
So
Because,
she won't benefit from that this year.
Correct.
It'll be after the next election.
correct,
Yeah.
And we could do that next year, could we not? Like, what's the rush?
No, it has to be in before.
no,
the-
it's
has to
gotta
be-
be before the 18th, she said.
Anybody who would run for election server
Right,
would.
so it
be
has
on
to be
there.
in place for the, it has to be in place
next
the year of the election, because, say for instance, you guys like my husband better, and he decided to run against me, and he beats me, and you're like, oh, you know what, we wanna pay Mark Mounts $50,000. That wouldn't be fair to me, who thought I was running for $20,000.
Right.
So it has to be in place the year of the election before the ballots actually, before, our signage even goes out.
So that means the
So-
18th.
Yeah.
So it's the 18th,
No way.
yeah,
So-
correct. And it can't be changed during that term. So whatever the increase is, that will be for the next 4 years
Right.
again. Rates can't be adjusted
So what does that
during the
mean for
year.
the average taxpayer then?
What was that, I'm sorry?
What does that cost then to the average taxpayer? You said it was only a raise of how much?
0.25.
It's,
Oh,
it's
0.5.
0.5 per, yeah.
Which will bring you how much
$6,000.
over how many residents?
30, like
$1.
3,300,
$1 to a resident.
$2 a resident.
Yeah,
3,300 residents we have, yeah.
So we need a motion to that effect?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds pretty fair.
To approve that.
Yeah, make that motion.
The resolution,
Is it 05?
25-05, yes, sir.
I'll second
All right, we have a motion on the table. to
Scott,
approve
second.
Resolution 2505, we have a second. Roll call, Ms. Bridenstine.
Yes,
Mr. Gallo.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Bittler.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Thank you all.
Thank
no
you.
problem.
Now pray I win, because if not, somebody else just got it. No, I'm just kidding.
Make sure Mark doesn't vote.
No, you're.
I will fight them.
Pay for it, will you?
He sleeps next to you. That's a
Yeah,
good- that's a-
yeah, my
That's a good one.
So the last time I had here this evening, Joe Cool, the Eagle Scout, has completed his project at Gibraltar Park. He's not able to be here this evening. I can actually update you. The actual cost before $34.30 is what he's looking for in reimbursement for the final expenses related to that project. And he will be here on Tuesday to present that to the board.
Yeah, 4:30, 4:30, you're right. And we can have a check for him then to reimburse the kid? Rich?
You can, if you'd like to
Well,
put that in
yeah.
motion, I have that ready for the board.
Do it
Yes.
now so he has his
Yeah,
check.
Okay.
He did a good job, right? Or we-
yeah,
Oh, he's done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the 430 reimbursement and have it ready for the Tuesday meeting.
I second that.
Board, if I may also request, one thing that we can do for an Eagle Scout is to present a resolution from the board thanking them for their work. Would you like to do that as well?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Okay.
Tack that on the back of that motion.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
The resolution.
Roll call, Ms. Bridenstine.
Yes,
Mr. Gallo.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Bittler.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Thank you, board.
no problem.
All right, our next category, this is the new category we have, is the supervisor reports. I just go down the list that we have here in front of us, and if you had anything, that's great. Supervisor Rhodes, our vice chair for the S&P database.
Yeah, so I'm about 3/4 of the way through the screen mock-ups that I'll send out to everybody to take a look at with details on how the system will run and function and things like that. So only about another week on it, maybe a week and a half, and then I'll send it to everybody.
Excellent.
And that was password, I got the information I asked for, that was password protected.
Correct, sir. I sent you the password via text.
Right, and how was that created, or when was it, that password? I don't recall that in the past, that document.
So in order to ensure that we didn't have spillage of any type, Supervisor Rhodes and I, when we originally spoke about it,
Spillage as in sewage spillage?
you know,
No.
as in data spillage, sir. So in order to protect the document and provide a letter of protection for it, Supervisor Rhodes originally, when we spoke about it, we decided to put a password on that. So when I originally sent it to him, it was password protected. and then I sent you the same password.
And your concern was what?
Public,
Well, just, public, that information getting out in email, because it's out there in the cloud then, right? It's not just going to me and you, it's going out to other servers out there.
anybody can hack it.
So, to prevent anybody from getting access to that personal data, the resident data, we password protected it
It
and
would
sent the
almost
password
seem
differently.
like most of that could be, obtained, at least the history of that systems could be obtained, by a request.
But
With,
it
with,
doesn't matter.
with redactions for, personal addresses and telephone numbers.
Well, when
Which
they're asking
address
for,
is
when they're
not
asking
written
for a
in, so.
sewer system maintenance, they'll be asking for that address. That's what they want. They wanna see what that tank's been pumped out.
We
Well,
just,
would you get the address information on?
Well, how else could you respond? So if I'm gonna buy a house and I wanna see if this if this has been pumped out regularly,
Mhm.
and say I wanted to compare that against the seller's disclosure, that information would have to be released. So,
that's only if,
That would come through the realtor.
yeah, that's through the realtor. Truthfully, we don't want it coming up
It
for
was
us.
basically for,
Testing?
protecting addresses and phone numbers from.
It's a
That's
substantial,
why-
it's a substantial database. We're talking somewhere in the neighborhood around 3,500.
and what cycle are we in now? There's three categories or three.
I just password protected it, so.
Yeah, it was just to be
Well,
safe.
under the scenario Mr. Bitler raised, the property obviously would give the consent to release the
Right.
address, but generally speaking, even when a document is, discoverable under right to know, it is subject to redaction for personal identifying information such as addresses.
I don't see the whole point of it.
So
Making a
what's
fuss
been the
about it.
last cycle that's been sent out?
I don't know.
So there were actually, you're talking about the zones, sir, there were 3
Yeah.
zones.
There's three zones. Which was the last zone?
I'd have to go back and look, to be honest, sir, and I will tell you, one of the things that Supervisor Rhodes and I spoke about was the fact that we would likely eliminate the zone system. It was fractured very early on.
Oh, yeah.
As an example of that, I use myself as an example, I think I was due to pay in 2019, I actually paid a year early, so that then changed my entire cycle, so even though I'm part of the one that was, whatever that
And
zone
I'm
was.
part of two.
And I think that happened in a lot of cases, folks got that initial letter from us to start working it, and so they paid early. So,
The
again,
new
I think
system
that,
doesn't even have.
yeah, we took them out.
It just doesn't, it
So
doesn't make
how will they
sense.
do it in 3 years?
Well, it's all driven off of a date, right? The last time you paid and the last time you had things pumped. And then the system alerts you when, based off of the configuration setting that you set, if you want 30 days or 45 days or 60 days, when you open the system up, it will alert you that there's these 200 residents that are coming up in 45 days, and you can generate their letters automatically and put them in the mail.
Just a reminder, this is coming up, you have to have this done within this year.
So it's all just driven off of date, not a zone. Doesn't really
Right.
matter what zone you're in, if you didn't pay in 3 years or you didn't.
I
do
think
it
we're
for
gonna have
years.
a year or two growing pains with that, as people get
As they get
It
caught
doesn't
up.
matter.
more accustomed to it.
You've
Yeah,
already
it
had
will.
growing
I
pains
mean,
with the zones, so what does it
I think
matter?
it'll make it easier in knowing who's up, at what time, and it doesn't really matter the zone that they're in, it's just, this person's up and needs to get it pumped and, so it's just more of a overall database and process.
Yeah, and it's
Streamlined versus. the way it
Fractured.
was Before, right?
it's actually dated, it's driven by date.
But I mean, like I said, I'll go over all the details and everything with everybody to get their input to see if they have any ideas or something that I missed or didn't think of in the process, and we can kind of modify it from that
Play
point
end user.
forward. So, yeah.
Play end user.
Right.
In regards to people calling in wanting to know whether the property's been pumped, we originally were going to, when a title company called for a sewer cert, we would provide a sewer cert the same for the on-lot system that we do for a public service. So they pay for the certification for his house, same as I do my house. So that would take care of that problem, so it is available, but at a fee. And it would also help offset the cost of maintaining the system.
The system, gotcha.
And so it's not a substantial fee, I think it's $30 or $35
It's
for
30, I
that.
think it's
Yeah,
30 or
right.
35
As-
for the switch.
Picked up at closing.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. That's it for me.
Sir, Supervisor Bitler, any updates on the RTMA lease discussions?
Yeah, I'd make a few brief comments. The first is part of the process, at least in my way of thinking, is our actual ordinances that created the authority that dates to 85 and 86. And I kind of look at those to see how the lease was incorporated, what maybe some of the terms are or are not. At last discussion, I had asked a question about the $10,000 heading into the budget. Do you have any feedback on that?
And not this time, sir.
Okay, one of the struggles is, it seems like we've got a lease that says this, but then we've got into the habits of doing this, and this. And in preparation of the new lease, I think we need to know the this, and this, which ones we're going to use, which ones we're not going to use, which one makes sense. Particularly with, in my opinion, the struggle with, the breaking of the line was really, an issue, an environmental issue, and it's something we need to look at. Having said that, I've been through, this is the actual documents. Again, they're all available for you guys to review, comment on if you would like. We do have a draft, which again, I've been through twice, that apparently was prepared originally. Mr. Steve is working as the liaison. We spoke briefly a time or two on it, but have not had any lengthy discussions at all. This was originally prepared by your office and then reviewed by, I think, or discussed maybe with their attorney. Now, our attorney, we've selected as a board who?
I don't have that in front of me here, sir.
Do we have his engagement? We motioned to select our own counsel, and before I send something to an attorney, I like to make sure we're somewhat having a chance to comment amongst ourselves and maybe direct him or her. So do we have his letter of engagement?
You can get that, sir.
Okay, if you could get that to me, I think it's, we do wanna, keep the process going. So it's important, our fees are reasonable. Many of you remember, or I've said before, that my father was on that board to start that. And we were very successful, and some of your predecessors, long before you were thought of, going back to Norm Detro was a solicitor we had. And I think it was very beneficial for the community. Unfortunately, our plan has required certain, I'll say, expansions to that, which are going to prove challenging in the next years. So stay tuned, and I'll take any feedback, comments that you guys want to make.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Supervisor Bryson, you want to talk about Zoom this evening?
Yeah. Okay, Chris, you're away. Wouldn't it be a whole lot better to use Zoom if somebody's sick or somebody's on vacation? It would just be a whole lot easier.
Yeah, it would be.
Okay, because you can't hear worth beans on the phone when you're trying to listen.
I can hear most of it, but I can't really hear Harold and stuff, but yeah, you can hear most of it. You got whatever the board is saying, what Rich is saying, and Jason's saying,
How
but
did you know who was me if you can't hear me?
otherwise you can't hear much.
Because we know you're always got something to comment about, Harold. Fair statement.
Well, the Zoom, in my opinion, you all know my position on that.
Well, I didn't ask
Between
your
my-
opinion.
Between my son and I, we've authored a correspondence dated June 20th. For those of you who don't know, the Zoom has presented a number of problems here, particularly not being functioning properly. And at the time, our then manager essentially served as a gatekeeper, not
We're
providing the
not
link.
talking about the same thing, Mr. Bittler.
We're talking about Zoom.
We're talking about allowing our
We're
board.
talking, well,
our
if you're going
board.
to allow the board, then you should allow the public.
You know what, you
Okay,
have the
that's-
public,
that's
you
the
got
bottom
your
line.
way, you
Stop
have the
thinking as an
public.
individual and start thinking as a public.
You know what, Mr.
Okay, so if you're
Bittler?
gonna have the Zoom, then you should do it right, and we haven't done that
You know
right.
what, nothing's right in your opinion. So you've
These
got the
meetings are
community
advertised, we know when we are supposed to be here and not, and
Mr.
if you're
Bittler,
not able to do that,
other people
that's your
have-
choice.
You know what, other people
That's your
have
choice if you're not able to do
vacations,
that.
holidays, or are
So-
sick.
I mean, that's the bottom line. Most places, I think we had this discussion, Engineer Road, that, I think you and I had a discussion months ago where I think you said 3/4 of the municipalities you represent have done away with Zoom.
Yeah, they don't,
They
not
don't
everybody
do it.
offers it.
So it was a perhaps
Okay, not
necessary
every- no, wait,
evil.
Not everybody offers it. If you listen to the whole conversation, Mr. Bittler, which you don't, okay? It's a matter of allowing it. And
Well, there's
in
there's
that,
another problem
we only
that
really
maybe
need,
you're aware of. And that's a sunshine law issue, that if you make Zoom, I don't know that you can just restrict it to supervisors. I doubt that. You know, but even saying that, what happens when the Zoom goes down and somebody's responding to that? Now there's a case, I have the case here, and that talks about sunshine law violation. It can actually require us to suspend that meeting if somebody wants to participate via Zoom. So I don't think it's necessary, in my own opinion, and I don't think we're there.
They have access on the little little YouTube through Mr. Bitler to access it as it's going on, but they're not allowed to interact on that. So I don't see what the difference is.
Well, if you just said it was for the board only, now you're saying they're going to be able to interact.
Yeah, but
The Zoom also presents problems with right to know requests. It also presents problems, as I said, with what happens when it goes down. And that's by no way of trying to deny anybody's participation. Come to the meeting like we've always done. Those are archived, those YouTubes are archived.
I know
And
they're
I think there'll be enhancements to that system moving forward. That's what I think.
Do you ever give up? It's like anything anyone else suggests that wasn't your little cutesy idea is a problem, okay?
No, you're just the problem, Ms. Brightenstein.
I don't really care what you think, Bitler. It's about the
That's the
community.
problem.
It's about Zoom. It was about
Okay.
allowing.
All right, let's, any input, thoughts, anybody on that?
The only thing I assure the
Besides
board
the
is,
yard.
you know, second class township code will allow us to do that. We do not actually have to have quorum in the room. The only two that I believe do are boroughs and townships that are first class require a quorum within the room. So whether we're doing it via phone or Zoom or some other system, we can actually act that way. That would actually maybe alleviate some of the other challenges we do have from time to time. You know, we have moving parts, as we know, and that will allow us to be more flexible. It could be an option on the table.
all I would say is that, Mr. Baylor, I think has raised a good question about if we allow it for a supervisor, do we have to allow it for the public generally? I don't know if the Sunshine Act is clear on that question, but I would say that, you know, if we allow a supervisor to participate by phone call, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to allow all of the public to also have the ability to call in, so.
There is law though that specifically talks about the supervisor having the ability to call in and vote, as long as they can hear the conversation of what's going on.
Well,
But it doesn't talk anything about the public doing it.
right, but that,
Well, that was my point.
That's the point.
That was my point.
you know, you can't always hear that great on there. And if we're gonna hear what we're saying, okay, we wanna be able to hear what the people in the room are saying too.
Yeah, as I recall, Zoom wasn't great for being able to hear. It kept on chirping in and out. And on
But
top of that,
remember-
Zoom published our information one time. And I ended up part of a class action suit, and I collected off of Zoom for doing that.
Unless you have a better speaker and better microphone, you're still gonna have the same problems with the phone that you do with Zoom.
It was all purchased.
We have it.
No,
That's what I'm saying.
It didn't.
Yeah, but we're not talking about allowing, what happened was, Harold, we overmaxed it. We had like 10, 12, 15, 20 people in. Well, it was too much, we don't have the bandwidth.
I don't think it was that. I think the person managing it at that point was restricting access.
Absolutely, Scott, absolutely.
Agreed, 100%.
The person that managed it, I'm not gonna name names, bless her soul, was not allowing people in,
The
myself
rationale-
included.
Well, the rationale,
I'm not laughing, I don't mean that funny.
And me,
I didn't have any
Seriously.
problems getting in.
Oh, yeah.
twice.
the rationale behind that was
I just kept clicking the one day.
the second class township code requires you to know who's participating in the meeting. And
Yeah,
that's why she
you
was
had to have
gatekeeping.
permission.
Correct. So if a individual, we spent a lot of money to spend. I wasn't on the board at that point.
Yeah,
Well, how much was that, Harold? Two
that was
grand?
Oh,
about,
it was
it
public.
was
a little bit
about,
more than
I was
that.
gonna say, I think it was like
It's
3
here.
or 35,
I-
so to use
I
it,
believe if it's managed properly by the right, I don't wanna use the word gatekeeper, the right admin to allow everyone in, then I don't think it's a problem.
Well, once again, you run into the issue of how do you know who's participating in your meeting?
You have them announce who they are when they enter the room. I've done it before. I've done it on multiple.
So they're announcing that when they're coming and going.
You know,
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
I think-
further disrupting the meeting.
We had We had Mickey Mouse on there one day.
We did.
So here's one line.
Yeah, so-
Anyone, regardless of whether they are a resident of this township, has the ability to attend the meeting. If it's virtually, they can attend it virtually. The only caveat is that to the extent someone wants to make a public comment, they have to be a resident or taxpayer. And if they're disruptive, obviously they can be kicked out of the meeting.
Right.
Just like anyone who's disruptive here can be kicked out of the meeting.
The
Exactly.
rules in this room would apply to them.
Of course.
So,
Exactly.
Nope, same thing.
I mean, well, I don't have an issue with any of that, I'd like to make sure that we cover our basis if we do move forward with this, right? Just in the fact that there isn't anything, Tim, like you said, there could be, I just wanna look over all the information before making any kind of decision to make sure that we're not, doing anything that would cause.
Well, here's the case out of Lackawanna County.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, well, go north, you'll figure out there's problems, north big time anyway.
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at that. Okay.
The next thing we have on our agenda posting is a newsletter.
Yes, that we've been discussing for the last, I don't know, how many months now?
I believe the board received the email with some of the examples. There's a link and available to you there to take a look at the options available to us. Again, reviewing the cost, of course, the cost may go up slightly based on current rates from the Postal Service. However, I believe for each mailing, we were talking somewhere in the neighborhood around $1,200. I think we had talked about potentially up to 3 mailings per year, so total cost of around $3,600. Max would be, I think, 4 in any given year to do that. And it would provide us an opportunity. We could have, we don't pay for any of the production of this, it would just be for the mailing costs. There is a little overlap in looking at how the mailing routes are set up, so there might be a handful of folks in Birdsboro or in our township that would still end up getting that mailing.
Again, that's,
It's just, it's the way it works.
Now, we're not locked into doing 3 a year, right?
No, we're not, sir. Nope.
Because if
can
we
do
only
2 a
have
year.
content for maybe twice a year, we
Correct.
can do 2 of them as
Right.
opposed to, being locked into 3. Okay.
We had talked, probably one good idea, and Mr. Renninger and I talked at one point. So, for example, doing one, late fall, a reminder, folks, we're coming up on plowing season. Here's some, here's some things for you to remember. Probably something in the late spring or early summer where we would remind them about road work coming up. What Oil and Ship is, why we do those programs, why it's beneficial to us. It provides our residents more information, and there would also be an electronic version available for those who would like to go down that route as well.
yeah, because everything with newsletters paid for by advertising.
Correct.
From the people local to the community.
And what I might
We could
recommend,
get PD on there as thing.
PDF, yeah, they do a PDF.
No, I mean, police department stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we could
You
do a
can
lot of
put whatever
different
you
things
want.
there and,
You go to Robeson or something like that. Okay.
so we would, supervisors would have an opportunity to, put a small blurb in there about, a special project or something that we were working on that you were working on as a board. We can have a little blurb in there for the manager about things we want folks to think about during the coming year. Again, there's a lot of opportunities for us with it. And it's all paid for by advertisement, so the actual production is not a cost on us.
And we don't have the opportunity to sell advertising for that?
No, we do.
We
They-
do, or the company does?
No, the company does, we can give them a
The
list.
company does, but what do you think, sir?
Well, no, I was just thinking if they're taking all the advertising, if we had an opportunity, we could cover some of our mailing costs as well, but I didn't know if that was, if
They kick back.
well, yeah, like I was saying, we sell the advertising, they put the advertising in there, we get, let's say we do $500 for a year,
I
that's gonna
certainly
pay
ask
for half of one
Yeah,
of our mailings.
I don't know, because when I got contacted from Birdsboro to do it, and I told them that Robeson was gonna do it, she said, yeah, we've been talking to Robeson, and I said, well, I'd rather support the township I live in.
But, obviously, things like restaurants and not dealerships.
Yeah, I just didn't know if
but-
there was any revenue to help us cover the cost of the mailing, right? I know we're not paying for the creation of it,
Right.
that advertising's covering that, but I didn't know
I
if
can
it was.
check.
I mean, I just a thought,
Yeah.
if not,
It's still it's a very small cost overall
Right.
for us.
Right. Chris, any input on that? Thoughts?
No, I think a newsletter's a great idea, we should just, some point do it and get it rolling.
Anybody else? Anybody wanna make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the newsletter.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
How many mailing?
I think that's a to be determined, a minimum of 2, and no more than 4.
What you wanna put a cost in there, what you would say, no, let's.
1,200.
Well, 1,200 per mailing. Yeah, 1,200 per mailing, so.
That's why I said anywhere between 2 and 4, because it depends on what's going on that year.
Well, if you
what
just
you're
make the
gonna do.
motion that you do it at 1,200 a mailing, and then you can decide how many you do after that.
Right, because who knows?
Okay, so we have a motion. Yeah,
Two things. One is, why don't you try and build an electronic base and start the thing off that way before you start doing pay for mailing?
You don't
Because your
understand.
older residents
yeah.
want them in now.
They want them in it,
But I'm saying, to get the thing started,
they're going to do it, then they give it to us in electronic format, we look at it, decide that we like it, they can put it out on the web, and then we mail it after we've looked at it and decided it's good.
have you, anybody seen unions?
We can also do email, that would be less mailings, but if you
Right.
collect email addresses.
Union mails out
Some time
most
for
of
that.
that.
Yeah, it's gonna take us time.
Jason has some, don't you? Emails?
I'll second the motion that Joy made.
Not that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Which was at least 2, no more than 4.
Well, just at $1,200.
At $1,200, just 1,200 and forget it, we'll figure it out as we go.
All right, roll call, Ms. Feinstein.
Yes.
Mr. Gallo.
Mind if I vote a while, Jeff? I'll vote no.
Mr. Bellers, no.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes,
Mr. Gallo.
I would rather see it restricted down. I'm gonna say no at this point.
Restricted down to.
2, 3, we're just saying we can
Well,
do 6, 18,
No,
24.
we said no more than 4.
No, we didn't.
Yes, I said that, Jeff said no, just keep it to
What's your motion?
$1,200.
You want to change your motion?
I originally said 2, but no more than 4, and you said,
That wasn't the motion, that wasn't the motion.
That wasn't the motion.
That wasn't the motion.
You just
Motion-
reopened
motion
at
was-
1,200.
Right, correct,
Right.
correct. So
That's why I'm, no.
you made the motion,
I didn't make a motion, she made a motion.
right, but he
that's why
said,
this is,
okay,
so why don't,
start over.
the motion is being withdrawn?
The motion,
Withdraw the motion?
I'll withdraw the motion,
Okay,
because the
okay.
motion should have been that we were going to do mailings at $1,200,
Up to how many a year?
no more than 4,
Okay.
a minimum of 2, a maximum of 4.
Okay, okay.
so why don't you just do, not to exceed $4,000, which is just in 3.
I don't really care, I just wanna get this started, it's been a darn year, I'm tired of going back and forth over
Why
it.
don't we do 2 for the first year?
Well, why don't we do 2 and see how it goes?
That's what I mean. Why don't we do 2?
Fine.
1 in spring and 1 in early fall.
What's your motion?
Fine, I make a motion that we do 2 of these to start out at $1,200 a piece for mailing.
2,400 total.
So
Two.
2,400 total, so we'll see what happens, we can always modify it later.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second again.
All right, got a second. Roll call, Ms.
Can I
Breinstein.
vote
Yes.
no again, Jeff?
Mr. Gallo.
What else is new?
Mr. Bittler.
Why don't we fix our website first, guys?
Alright, I'm gonna say,
Why don't we just
I'm yes.
vote no and get over
Okay.
yourself?
Yes, so we have 2 yes, Mr. Bittler.
I'm a no.
No, Mr. Smith.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Drama.
And the-
Yeah, it was painful.
The second thing I want to talk about with that Union Township mailing is, they apparently have cut a deal with, Animal Rescue League.
But you're number 6.
What?
You don't ever introduce yourself, you automatically just go, I. There are 5 up here.
Why don't you let the man finish, Joy? You know
He's
who he
in your
is.
pocket,
What's
I
wrong
know.
with you?
All right,
What's
But
wrong
he
with you?
doesn't.
Alright, go ahead.
Anyway, the union has apparently cut a deal with the Animal Rescue League to take up to 10 dogs a year from them. Now, I don't know what are the financial ranges or anything else, but it sounded like it all arbitrarily just cut a deal to accept 10 dogs.
Truthfully,
What's it?
we already got screwed by the Animal Rescue League once. Okay, do you remember the $15,000 they want? They haven't changed, Harold.
I can guarantee you that Union Township is not paying them 15,000.
No, they're not paying them 15,000, but once
But
you,
I think it would be worth a call to Union Township's manager to find out what the deal was.
I can comment on it a little bit. So, the Animal Rescue League has started MOUs for smaller townships that can't afford the big price. So I believe, and I do have the paperwork, not in front of me, but I believe for Robeson Township, it's $250 a dog, and it's under 15 dogs that they will come and take for us. My thing with that is, as looking at the fees, and I don't know how they're doing it, Birdsboro's fee for them to come pick it up is $50, ours is $250. Not sure how they figured that out since we're closer. Now our township is larger, but Temple is also $50. Now I don't know if that's something that they had prior contracts with the Animal Rescue League.
They did.
And they gave them a better deal. What Harold's saying is not a bad idea. Like this past week, we found Buddy on Hay Creek Road. He was posted on the website. He hung out with me here for a couple hours inside the building and stuff like that. Great dog. If we do have a dog that nobody's coming to pick up, we eventually will have to do something with it. It's gonna cost us $250 unless we could possibly negotiate with the Animal Rescue League, so it's not a terrible plan for a smaller township.
Well, what's wrong with subcontracting out for people who have kennels, who are trained to do that, and keep our police focused on what should be in police? You saw how sick the dog was at my place.
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna have sick dogs down here in a public place. That's why I voted no to have these cages. I still didn't hear back whether we're fully insured for it. Do we have a rider on that? See, how do you do something like that? How do you decide something like that?
Do you finish listening? You weren't on the board when we went to the Animal Rescue League or we went to the Center for Excellence up at Albright, okay? The gentleman who was running it at the time, who is now over at Exeter, it's like, he was adamant that he wanted $15,000. He wanted $2.50 per resident. They're only changing their mind now because a lot of us haven't. You want to subcontract it. Zoe's house was maxed. There were a lot of these. You can only hold a dog for 48 hours. That's your maximum limit. I do not have a license to hold a dog, nor do I want one for more than the 24 to 48. Okay, so there's a lot of other ramifications that you're not aware of, but you complain about. So
You're talking to me.
I've been on
Who are
this.
you talking to?
I'm talking to you because you don't listen. We started this about 5 years ago. They stuck it to us. They were very, very rude about it. They didn't want to accept the dogs. And now they're not getting as much from everybody that they anticipated they were going to get. But if you look at what they're making and what the person who's in charge is making, it's an awful lot of money.
Yet another mistake we're making.
So,
Yeah, you're a
How do
mistake,
we
but we
not
won't
have
go there.
insurance clarified?
Joy,
Really?
what does Chief Roby do with the dog when it's been here for 2 days?
That's a whole different ballgame.
That's what he's asking.
Are you Harold? How about if you just be quiet for a second?
All right.
Why the very same
The
question?
bottom line is, the
Let's get
bottom,
on with the conversation and we can talk about it later or
the bottom line is,
research
Harold,
stuff.
I
there
can
are ones
I
that
can
take
give you
it
information
after the
by the,
48 hours. After 48 hours,
regular
most places
meetings. I have,
take
I
it.
just haven't on my- And I'll reconfirm with our insurance company. I know they provided something earlier, but I can't recall off the top of my head what that was.
Can you send me a copy of that? Send me a copy of that rider or that
How about send
amendment?
it to all of us, Mr.
Binder.
Bittler?
Whatever,
You're not
when I say
special.
me, I mean everybody.
No,
I have no,
you don't. No, you
no
don't.
dibs on getting stuff. It's hard enough to get information here as it is.
Oh, God, no, it's not. All you have to
It
do is
is.
ask. He's
It
more
is.
than
Maybe
cooperative.
put it under general liability policy, we're
Yes.
talking a very small amount here, however, I understand Mr. Bittler's concern, and I certainly wanna look into that and make sure that we are covered to have that here.
Okay. All right, so, Mr. Smith, you said the solar stuff's in our packet.
Yeah, similar stuff's in the packet, so everybody can look at that and we can discuss that another time.
Okay.
Yeah, just generally, just so that the board has a general idea here. So what this really comes down to, if you take a look at these numbers, over a 40-year life cycle of a solar system, the first one is a 361 kilowatt size system, ground mount, that's about an acre size system. If you go to double that, it's 722 kilowatts. There's a slight, well, I shouldn't say a slight increase, there's about a 10% additional. Not only is it going to be double the return on investment, but you're going to have about an additional 10% on top of that would be more. So going from 1.7, you go to 3.7 million would be the return on investment over that period in time. Normally you take 3.4, but you're going to get another $300,000 out of that $350,000. So
The site does not lend itself well if you're talking about the boondoggle, and solar time has not yet come. Look at the debacle with the federal government. If you wanna read some nice, interesting literature on solar, here it is. We've owned the property for years, not maintained it, and it's just, a nice idea. It's like what we can talk about next with these batteries, with these single-use batteries. It's not a good idea.
I happen to have it on my house. My electric bill's going from over
That's
300.
different than the public, and you'll find out perhaps, hopefully not.
You always have to be right, don't you, Hitler?
No, I happen to have the research, Ms. Breitenstein.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Alright, let's move on. Alright, the next two items here are the fire companies. We don't have any reports for those yet. Again, we did add the EMC report in there. We've reached out for that. I think it's been happening in the back of the hall, but, and then it's been a busy week with the salt pieces. And then the minutes and reports, as we've received to date. A review, and then we could move on to any questions, planning and engineering.
Any questions, no? Mr. Rowe? Good evening, board. I issued my report to you at your regular meeting. Boja Engineering will be present to present both the Durnall subdivision and the Old Hickory building land development plan. Durnall's the rural subdivision out on Hay Creek Road. Old Hickory Road is the commercial industrial site across from Penske. So he'll be here to present those to you. They both received recommendation for plan approvals by your planning commission. So they'll be on your agenda for the regular meeting. I would like to ask your permission. There's two other plans. They're covered in my report, and they've been before you previously. One is the Chestnut Hill subdivision, and one is the land development plan for Lot 1 in the Chestnut Hill subdivision. Your planning commission did recommend conditional plan approvals for those. I did not have them on this workshop agenda because what happened was the applicant's engineer left Wilkinson and Associates, who prepared those plans, and went to McCarthy Engineering. Okay? Your planning commission made a recommendation subject upon Wilkinson providing a release of those plans to McCarthy to the solicitor's satisfaction. I in no way thought that was going to be provided so quickly. It has been, so they would now be ready for your consideration and a presentation to you as well on Tuesday night, if you'll let me add those to your agenda. So I'm looking for your permission on that.
May I agree with that? Chris, you good with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. We'll see that they're added, and I will let them know that they're on the agenda. Next item, January 17th, we met with Telco, Manager Howlett and myself to discuss some of the concerns we've been seeing and hearing with the signals here in Gibraltar. Some of the long queue times and things like that we've been noticing on weekends, Fridays, those sorts of things. We went through all the cabinets. They were inspected by Telco. They did find two issues with the Gibraltar Road light. They were push button related. Those push buttons were broken in the on position. They felt that that could be short circuiting the old green time for 724. Might be part of the problem. I don't think it's the entire problem. We have a left turn issue there as well. But we did go on to talk about the bridge closure that's coming up. And we discussed that the signal plans to redo those signals when the bridge closure goes into effect are already approved. So once the bridge construction begins, I believe is our time to discuss signal timing with PennDOT, because they will have to run those signal plans back through us to reopen the bridge. So essentially the signals get flipped when the bridge goes out, because you'll have a red light and they're all tied together, so nobody can go straight through the bridge.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we had a very lengthy and I think productive conversation on that. So once the bridge goes into construction, I believe your manager and myself will be on the phone with PennDOT talking about signal timing. Okay.
So when the bridge reopens, we have a better timing structure in place at that point in time. So we're looking at probably 2 years down the road at this point.
Correct. So on our radar, we'll keep working on it, but wanted to update you that we've been out there, we've gone through this, and we think we understand what some of the problem was. That's been repaired, and now we're going to revisit it, try to solve a little bit more of that going forward. Okay. And that's all I have for you, unless you have questions of me. I don't think I have anything else.
Do we have any questions? Alright. Thank you, Ryan. Alright, legal matters.
Good evening, board members. I don't have much to report tonight. With respect to the PAMS contract, that will be implemented for July's billing cycle, and pertaining to the M3 Explo LLC conditional use application, the board does need to set a hearing date for that proceeding. Your two choices are to hold it on or during the March workshop or general business meeting. It's probably more appropriate for the general business meeting, and if we can get a date scheduled tonight, then my office can commence with the advertising and the posting and mailing those.
And that was for March.
Yes, for the March general business meeting on the 18th. So I would need just a motion to schedule that conditional use hearing to occur on or at the general business meeting in March.
March 18th. Alright, everyone want to make that motion?
That was item D, correct?
Item D,
yes. Yeah, M3 Explo.
I'll make a motion to have the hearing on March 18th, 45.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a
I'll
second.
second it.
Alright, we have a second. Roll call, Ms. Bridenstine.
Yes.
Mr. Gallo.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Thank you. Nothing else to report.
Thank you. Public Works, Barry.
Good evening, board. First thing on the agenda for us, the 2025 Freightliner's put into service. It was actually used the day after we picked it up. The plow snow, imagine that.
Nice.
Everything's going well with that. This, I apologize, I should have kind of checked this out prior, but I've been just a little busy. The old paver that we currently have, joint with Brecknock Township and ourselves, requesting that that you approve that we can place that on municipal bid, to sell that, since the new paver and roller, the grant money is there. So that is, as soon as we get a class set up, we're actually gonna go to Stevenson's Equipment and learn how to run the new paver. It's a little bit more in depth than the old one that we have, so I'm just requesting the board's approval to pretty much sell our half of the paver if there is such a thing. If not, I guess we go up there with a torch and cut it down the center and take our half home.
I think everybody's willing to share.
Yeah.
Do
So-
we need a motion for that, or?
Yes.
Do we, okay, do we have a motion then? Anybody wanna make a motion to?
So we need to make a motion to allow them to pay the old paver on the new bid, municipal bid.
Municipal bid, yeah.
I make that motion.
Alright, we have a motion, do we have a second?
So we go to paper with another municipality.
Yeah.
Correct.
Make the motion contingent upon the other municipality
Okay.
doing the same, giving the same approval.
Alright, I will make that motion for the municipal bid that we share with Brecknock contingent on their approval of it, the sale.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second the revised.
Alright, we have a second. Roll call, Ms. Bridenstine.
Yes.
Mr. Gallo.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Thank you, board. My second request is for the board's approval to purchase a 2024 Chevy Silverado 3500. This vehicle I found through a CoStar's dealer that actually Exeter Township purchased some of their chief trucks from, so they are a CoStar's dealer. The truck is what we would need. It's actually a four-door truck, so this is going to be also used to kind of keep the mileage off of either the F-550 or the bucket truck. As you know, some of the emails that we have sent out, the current Chevy truck that we have now is just,
Dying.
it's eating up a lot of money.
It's a replacement for this one, right?
It is a replacement, so as soon as we would get this, I would then, as soon as it's placed in service, I would then also, maybe next month, ask the board's approval to sell that truck once this thing.
And how much have we put into that truck over the last 2 or 3 years? I mean,
I looked over the last 6 years, it was upwards of 20 grand. It's just an astronomical cost.
It's way too much to
yeah.
keep fixing.
It's,
if I remember, most of that was probably within the last 3 years.
it was.
That's correct.
Yeah, and actually, I
I
mean,
remember all the problems.
it-
3 times in the last 2 months, we've had that
Yeah.
breakdown.
it died
once an
on us
intersection.
when another crew member and myself were doing our random drug test, died on us in Muhlenberg, in the middle of an intersection, and we had to push it out of the intersection. So, yeah, it's just been a mess, so just asking the board's approval, and that will not to exceed $70,000. The actual, cost on it is $67,597, and that again is CoStarz. And that is the cheapest of the three that I did look at as well. I looked at one that was at Miracle Chevrolet, that was, 69, and for whatever reason, the same truck at Bob Fisher was 73. I have no idea why so much more, but it was.
And board, just as a reminder, we did actually program for this in our 2025 budget. We knew that this was gonna potentially be a cost for us this year, so that, it's actually, I think we programmed 75,000 in there.
Correct, but it came in lower, so.
Happy day.
All right, does anybody wanna make a motion? At this time?
So I guess we need to make a motion for them to purchase this 2024 Chevy Silverado 3500 8D HD from CoStarz approved dealer. Which one did you say it was, Fisher?
No, it was, this was not from Fisher. Fisher was the hire.
Sioka.
Yeah, it's down in Westchester, so.
Okay. From Sioka.
I
Not to
always have to
exceed
look
$70,000.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we're in a second, roll call, Ms. Bridenstine.
Yes.
Mr. Gallo.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Bittler.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Thank you, board. Next request, and this is kind of going to offset with what the paver brings, is the approval. Now, this is going to be split 3 ways, between ourselves, Union Township, and Brecknock. This is for the purchase of a new deck over trailer. Our cost is not to exceed $15,500. Now, mind you, our monies are going to get a little bit offset with that, with whatever the paver brings as far as when it goes on municipal bid. The trailer that currently hauls the paver now is just not in good shape at all. This trailer also will be able to haul both the new paver and roller together, and not just one piece at a time.
And do you have an idea what the old paver may bring in, or you don't know?
It's municipal bid. I mean, shooting low, probably 10,000, shooting high, 20, 25. Again, it's one of those, all depends who's going after it. You know, it hopefully turns into a bidding war and it goes higher.
Yeah, okay.
And this would also be from line item 437,750 with the capital purchase.
Okay. And Brecknock and Union have already approved that?
They
portion?
they have already approved the motion for that.
All right, we have a motion to approve this purchase for our third, not to exceed 15.5.
I'll make the motion to approve the purchase, split with Union and Brecknock, not to exceed 15.5.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Yes, I have a second.
All right, we have a second, roll call, Ms. Bridenstine.
Yes.
Mr. Gallo.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Bittler.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Thank you, board. Last thing, as we're looking at the life cycle management on our trucks, I would like, just be mindful that we're not putting any money out. I'm just asking the board's approval to start the process of looking at purchasing / buying another 10-ton dump truck. Because the completion date for these trucks are 2 years now. When it's done, that's gonna put our 2007 truck at 20 years of age, which is getting up there, and at that age, we could probably recoup a little bit more money out of it, other than what we're doing with the 99 GMC, which is next to nothing.
Right.
You know, so this will kind of offset a little bit of the cost once, this gets underway, so.
And this is just to kind of start the process?
It's just simply to start the process to get kind of, our rough numbers, so I can bring it in front of you guys.
Specifications and, what we're looking for. We can't obviously, you cannot bid on a specific model, in this particular case, but if we know what specifications, he and I can sit down and
I
discuss that,
would
bring that to your attention.
Just, I would personally, unless the board has anything, I would personally like to go after another 10-ton Mack. They seem to be holding up very well, not just for us, but for other municipalities. I know Exeter, talking to Larry, their maintenance fees on the Mack compared to their Freightliners are tremendously lower. Plus, the backside of it, you know, the resale value of a Mack is gonna be a lot higher when time comes.
Do we need a motion to allow them to move forward, or is that
Not,
just a-
not to explore
not to explore?
facts.
And like I said, I know another, not the only reason, but another reason, you know, Mack is also CoStar, so we'll
Okay,
kind of take out the bidding process.
okay. Anybody have any comments or questions or anything for Barry on that? No?
We have grants coming available, I think here soon, be a great opportunity.
Yeah, I actually saw some of those that were, so I will be looking into that as well.
Okay.
We have taken both the 99 and our 2004 offline at this
Yeah.
point, they're both running over. So,
Okay, yeah. Everybody good with him moving forward with researching that?
It's not on the agenda, just a real quick, little.
Okay.
Just a real quick little background, of the salt situation that everybody's seen.
go ahead.
We were able to secure another 100-ton today from an outside vendor. We got that. Hopefully we can get another 200 tomorrow, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. While I was talking to that vendor, the state of Pennsylvania commandeered another stockpile that was 110,000 tons. So that took a lot away from him. So I'll keep the board updated as time goes on. We also hopefully are going to get, some salt that we, with the county cooperative that Brian Gottschall had set up. So,
Chemical equipment company, I think it was chemical.
Yeah.
So to bring everybody up to date, I wanted to actually say a couple of things here. One, very, very happy with everything inside the office that folks did. I know that Ms. McCune was on top of everything first thing on Monday morning, working with Barry. She actually called all the way out to Texas and a couple of our locations looking for any salt that we could pick up. Barry has been doing the same thing throughout the last couple of days. We worked together to get with DES and got the ball rolling there. And of course, Mr. Gullo, Supervisor Gullo was on board with us as well. It was really a great team effort in getting what we did get in. And I think had it not been for everybody working together like that, we'd have been in a much different situation. But with that, there's two more things here on the agenda that we'd have to, so I think we'd have to add a motion to add declaration of a disaster emergency to the agenda, and then we would have to do a second motion to accept the declaration of disaster emergency. If I heard Mr. or Supervisor Pittman correctly, this would be good for 7 days. What this will allow us then to do, the cost on salt is exceptionally higher than per our original agreement through the cooperative. The cooperative, I believe, was $75 per ton. We originally secured about another 200 ton before all this happened at about 85. It has now jumped to 135, and I think the one that they worked out through DES was 150 per ton. So, if in fact we have this in place, this would then allow us, if the state releases funds to cover down some of the expenses associated, we'd be able to apply then for a reimbursement to those costs.
And the board can amend the agenda to address an item concerning an emergency.
Anybody want to make a motion to amend the agenda and add these items?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to amend the agenda and add items for the declaration of.
So the first one would be a motion to add the declaration of disaster emergency to the agenda, which we will then have to republish. That'll go up for tomorrow for a 24-hour period.
Okay.
So we have to redo the agenda to add this to it.
Okay.
My preference, Jeff, would be to consider this Tuesday.
Anybody have any questions?
A little time to think about this and research a little further,
Don't
so.
you get this on?
What are you sitting on right now? How much do you have?
Is
Yeah.
it time sensitive?
Yeah,
Well,
time sensitive.
so if it, just say, we wanna get snow, it looks Saturday,
Right.
we'll have enough to do one round. We'll be good for one snowfall. And then if it snows like they want Wednesday into Thursday, which,
We're in trouble.
yeah, we're gonna be, yeah. Now, and also please be mindful that we also owe 100 ton back to the state.
Yeah.
We have to give that back to them, and they're looking for that within 30 days, of
I'll
course.
second Chris.
I'm not so sure your declaration of emergency is appropriate, only because what is the emergency? There's no snow on the ground right now. Your emergency is, and I won't sound crass or anything, is poor planning. You know, so the state.
No.
No, sir.
Yeah, I think it is.
The state.
There's no availability for salt.
There's no availability.
Okay, that's poor planning. You
No,
don't- I think
no,
that's
no,
poor
sir.
planning.
No, it's not.
It's not working.
As, so from what I understand, the reason for the lack of salt is the supplier in New York going out of business, and then the state of New York halting all exports of the salt to other jurisdictions.
Correct. Through
Right.
June and July, American Rock Salt laid off close to 70% of their mining force, saying basically take the summer off, and now they're paying for it deeply. There's gonna be a lot of bonds being used this year.
And the emergency is that snow is forecasted in the near future, and municipalities may not have adequate resources to address.
Barry, how do we avoid this situation in the future?
Honestly,
Yeah.
build a bigger salt shed.
Yeah, we've gotta get stuff like in summer
And
again.
that's coming up, we're gonna, we'll be okay this year as far as the salt shed goes, but if you go out and look at it, there's a lot of parts that are cracking and bending. So I think next year, we look at a salt shed
That holds how many tons?
and a bigger salt shed. So right now, we hold 350 ton of mix and 350 ton. That's
How
just,
much did you reserve this year versus last year?
so this year here, we were not capped. We started out both bins full. And as I knew it was snowing, and Manager Howitt can contest because he actually ordered for me, as we were throwing salt down, I called and said, hey, can you run in my office? I don't have that number off the top of my head. Call and reorder salt, literally while we were throwing salt down. The first two times was great. We had it within the 72 hours that the contract stated. The next.
How much did we contract though for total at the beginning of the season?
There is no contract, sir.
Yeah,
It's a cooperative, under the cooperative.
There was no cap.
There's no cap on that
So
cooperative.
how much did you reserve, or how much did you send an indication that we would be using?
So the first, well, again, we have to.
So no,
it's predictive, and so based on the storm. So the first time that we actually looked at purchasing salt, I think we ordered 200 ton.
Yeah.
And then the second time we purchased 75, and then immediately the next day we realized with the incoming storm pattern, we ordered an additional 200.
But what I think Mr. Bittler is asking, there was a survey that's brought out at the beginning of every year asking all the municipalities that are in this cooperative, how much do you think you're going to use?
Historical data.
That's like,
It's,
throw it up in the air,
yeah,
because you don't know
so
how much snow or ice you're gonna get.
I believe my answer was 500 ton. And we're well beyond that. Like, to your answer, Mr. Bittler, the only way to alleviate this problem is build a bigger salt shed
And
and
stockpile.
stockpile it. Yeah.
And it's, again, we don't know what kind of storm systems we're gonna have. If we have a number of these smaller storms roll through, we're gonna use a lot more salt than 2 or 3 big ones.
And,
When does that survey come out?
they bring it, so.
February, early March, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually, well,
Soon.
but now mind you, that our contract with the county is for 2 years. We're on year number 1 with American Rock Salt. So next year, I don't know what's gonna happen, I
So we're
think
better off to get what we can now.
not only that, I think we'd also, as, Brian Rhodes and I had talked about, maybe getting together with some other townships and seeing if we can't get a contract together with maybe 3 or 4 others to get our own.
Understand the state contract is not like we had to have a secondary contract, but if we have one through the cooperative and then we create our own through intermunicipal work,
Yeah.
then we're okay to do that, so.
That would allow us to have more accessibility to it.
Correct. The other issue with the contract, when we called the second time, I believe it was, maybe I've actually had 3 phone calls now. They had actually said, well, you hit your cap. And there was a lot of traffic that went back and forth about it. So we don't have a cap under the cooperative. And then they were delaying shipments. The last one that we made the order was last Thursday, actually, I believe. We made an order for 200 ton, and Friday morning I got into the office and they'd said, no, we don't even have an ETA for you on it. So that's how quickly it deteriorated. So very, very fast.
For instance, I know Union Township, they called and wanted salt, and they were on day 21 with no salt delivered. And then they finally got salt after, I believe, it was Union had some lawyers, it was their legal team called and kind of sped up the process, I guess. So I don't know if maybe in the future that would help. I mean, but if they don't have salt, they don't have salt. You know, you can't get something that you don't have.
I got involved at the county level, I received a phone call. And then this, just clarification for the poor planning crew and their lackeys on Facebook, just making things more difficult for everybody. This was countywide, outside of Berks County, outside of the state. Upon review, when I received the phone call, because Manager Hallett put in a request to Berks for emergency salt, that process is he would contact the county would contact PEMA. PEMA would go through their red tape and then say, yes, you're right, yeah, no, you're wrong. And if yes, you're right, they're gonna lean on PennDOT to force salt allocation to municipalities. So this process started on
Monday
morning. I spent most of my day with the county several times. The county unfortunately was led to believe that every municipality in Berks County was perfectly fine on salt. There's an individual through CELG, which is Center for Excellence Leadership
In government.
Yes. This individual, listening or not, was in the state of Florida, working remotely, telling the county that there's no salt problems in Berks County. I think I gave everybody a headache that morning when I said, oh no, there definitely is. And Rich's contact is what started this conversation. About 3 hours later, there was a survey, quick email, EMC phone calls from multiple county employees. They actually determined there was, I think if I remember correctly, 5 or 6 municipalities in Berks that had no salt. 0, out, gone. They had nothing for the event last night, or Sunday as well. Sorry, Sunday and last night. So this kind of kick-started a push, and PEMA would not lean on PennDOT until that information was returned. It came back and they went, oh, we do have a problem. So with that movement, and I know the county went pretty hard, I was impressed. They got salt from some strange locations.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we are. And just personally, last night, if everybody's familiar with Wallace Township, down on Creek Road, I went by their municipal building at about 11 p.m. There was no salt in their bin, and they had guys with shovels scraping out of the corners, throwing dump trucks. So for the naysayers and the poor planners, it's not Robeson.
I was gonna say, and it wasn't poor planning, it's just when you have a shortage, you have a shortage.
So I think in the future, the answer to Mr. Baker's questions, having a secondary contract will certainly help us immensely with that. Now, some of those will require us to have a certain amount of tonnage that we pull, but you know, we can adjust from there in out years from now.
Somebody else's lack of performance shouldn't affect us and impair our ability. It shouldn't. It's a safety concern that essentially wasn't met. That's the bottom line. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just stating the facts. This is not the first time, and something, you know, needs to be done. And it's certainly something that I've got some calls out on.
But it's nothing that you guys have control of, so.
I can only put as much salt in that shed as this shed holds.
And you can only get what you can get.
Back-to-back storms kill us. The only thing I could say to do is, you know, build a bigger shed, get a bigger boat.
Yep, pretty much.
I think, Mr. Rainer, between the two of us, I can't remember how many phone calls we made, but it was quite a few. And then I'd asked PennDOT for its backup, and I made phone calls to all of them as well. We tried every method in the world to pull salt in, and again, I want to thank the team that worked with us to do it. I mean, they all did a great job. Very, very impressed.
I mean, not toot my own horn, but some of the reason that we have a full bin of mix is because of one of my contacts that is a direct, very, let's just say, high influential person at Oceanport, and he was able to release salt for us.
that was a bonus.
Absolutely.
And we have to be grateful for what we got instead of complaining about what we couldn't get.
So I think the last thing we had on this was the motion to add the declaration of disaster emergency to the agenda. I don't know.
Yes, Chris said first, and I seconded it.
Yeah, we had a motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Bridenstine.
Yes.
Mr. Gallo.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Bittler.
I vote no.
And I'll vote yes.
Now it's added to the agenda, so now can be discussion.
There's been discussion, it's a little late, it's a little late.
I think we gotta have ourselves, Chairman Smith, sorry.
Some people don't wait for agendas.
Just something to add, Tom Kine, Robeson Township, White Bear Road. Years ago, when we ordered more salt and we didn't use it, we had no place to put it. And the contractors charged us to store it at their location for salt that we couldn't use. So I definitely feel a bigger salt storage area is very appropriate to do, that you'll have it under roof and close by. Because if you over order it and you get into a situation where you can't use it, you're gonna pay somebody to hold it for you.
Contractually, some of those orders are as if you take 60% of the order. So may have been that way 20 years ago, but there are ways around that now.
Well, a bigger salt shed, like you suggested, both of you suggested, seems to be able to alleviate a problem because we could have more
I mean,
on hand.
you know, not only that, you know, obviously the township's growing with more streets. So
Yeah.
obviously, you know, the salt shed probably wasn't designed or
No.
built to hold the capacity of,
That thing's been there for what, 25, 30 years?
it's,
Easy?
if you went to the back of it and saw how much it's bulging out, I'm praying that it doesn't
I
fall.
saw a lot of comments of why didn't we get loads and put tarps over them, just for the public. DEP will eat us alive.
Yeah.
Oh,
If
yeah,
we did not contain salt runoff. They legitimately fly helicopters over properties and look for salt runoff. And you will be fined heavily, so tarps do not work on piles, for those wondering.
No.
If I'm right, we looked at putting in a bigger salt shed out there before, and it was environmental issues with the volume of salt that we're gonna have, and the fact that it's flood area, and it was not an appropriate place to store. So, I mean, if you're gonna talk about getting another salt, putting another more salt in, maybe I'd consider putting it up at the other shed and splitting the two, or putting a second location up there.
I mean, that
How much
would be,
space is up at the old township building? Would you be able to seat on?
I mean, we'd have to look, I'll be honest with you, there's a little pile up there now that we have just because.
It's kinda like the perfect midpoint of the township, the back.
But it is in fact the center.
It is the dead center,
Yeah.
correct. That's what I'm thinking, we have that, there's a building, sure, we use the building, but then there's just like the
There's
common dump ground there, could we store 100 tons
Yeah.
there?
I mean, obviously, I
Give
would
you
have to
guys
do
quicker
something.
refills for the south end.
We could definitely look at that, you know, instead of building one big one here.
You figure you're down salting Hopewell, Red Hill, Cold Run, it's 15 minutes back over here.
Yeah.
That's certainly not in the floodplain.
5 to 10.
Yeah, if it floods there, then.
Well, biblical maybe.
So maybe instead of making a huge one here, we make two.
But I mean, honestly, that's the only thing I can think of is just we build a bigger salt shed or 2 salt sheds.
Add one up there maybe.
So,
Yeah.
alleviate this, I mean.
But since we've already gotta try and do something with this one because it's bulging, so you're gonna have to look at 2 of them and figure out what space you need once we get through this nightmare.
Okay. All right, does anybody wanna make a motion to,
Make the declaration of disaster emergency.
adopt the declaration of emergency that we just added to the agenda?
I make the motion.
All right, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Yes, you have a second.
All right, we have a second, roll call, Ms. Bridenstine.
Yes.
Mr. Gallo.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Bittler.
I vote no.
And I'll vote yes.
Thank you, Board. I'll have that available for signature, and we can return that then to DES. Okay, in your packets, there is a letter for
Park and Rec, yeah.
Park and Rec. Somebody that's looking to join the Park and Rec board. There's actually an email sent to us for your approval. We need a motion, I believe, to approve that individual. Would that be correct, Colin? We have a member who would like to join the Park and Rec board.
So you would want a motion appointing that individual to the Parks and Rec board?
Correct. It would be for a 5-year appointment. Brian Lehman, he's a township resident. As you can see here, he's been one for 14 years. I know that he's well acquainted with the township. He is, in fact, Reading Hospital emergency medicine physician. I believe at one point he was actually the chief of their
He's our medical director.
Yes.
Firehouse.
So you guys know him.
Yeah.
So
And this is not filling an unexpired term?
that's correct. It's an open. There's an open seat. There's actually 2 open seats that we have currently.
So you want a motion to appoint, what's his full name?
Brian Lehman, Lahmann, and it would be for a 5-year term.
To the Parks and Rec board.
All right, does anybody want to make that motion? To appoint Brian Lehman for a 5-year term in the Parks and Rec board?
I will make that motion when people volunteer.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Yes.
Roll call, Ms. Bridenstine.
Yes.
Mr. Gallo.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Bitler.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Thank you, board. Just want to let you know the chair and vice chair confirmed their attendance at the PRPS conference, and they will be going to that this year for hearing the report back to us. The board recalls they approved that, I think up to $900 for them to attend. They hope to get all 3 of the members that they currently have there, but they were able to get 2, so they split the cost. And then the first Park and Rec meeting is coming up, 2025, includes a reorg, and that'll be held on February 24th. As for the EAC, January minutes are as approved on February 6th are in your packet. Just wanted to update an email was sent relating to the single-use plastic discussion per Supervisor Bickler's request. I will let you know that I spoke to the Stampede Barbecue, the owner there, talked about how they process it's more looking, I think at this point, looking for, are there ways that businesses can reduce single-use plastics? And actually speaking with one of the owners up there, they mentioned that how they run their business, would be willing to talk to other businesses in the township about how they do that. Why? We don't have a lot here in the township, so this is just something that's ongoing in process. But they actually, I think they have a food truck. What he told me, they have a food truck down there. Excuse me, I'm getting his name at the moment. I'll tell you. They have a food truck in one of the townships to the south of here that actually has a full plastic ban. So they have ways that they work with that on. So
if you're interested, I've taken the opportunity to, and I thank you for getting that email for me, but I've taken the initiative, if you will, to print out the links of the single-use plastic bags. I've also printed out, and for those out there, you can see that the townships, the areas that enacted something like this are, basically all in the Philadelphia area. Stating it frankly, I just think we seem to go off in well-intentioned tangents. In my little farm store, I use plastic takeout bags, and it's not a problem. It's not a problem. I talk to Turkey Hill. It's really not a problem. The problem with the trash at the Gibraltar Playground has to do with the dumpster and the lack thereof. So in my opinion, we should be concentrating on other things. It intrigues me that we can have, you all heard about the earlier sewer system, we can have a failing sewer system pumping hundreds of thousands of gallons of raw sewage, and we're worried about single-use bags. We're worried about single-use bags, so much to do about nothing.
I don't know, I recycle my bags down in Boyers. Boyers takes your bags and
This is Robeson Township, not the city of Philadelphia.
Sorry, that does bear some further discussion on the allocation with respect to the sewer system. Is that true?
You wanna see some pictures, I'll be glad to email you the pictures.
He's going back.
You're asking me, is my representation true regarding sewer overflows? Is that what you're asking me?
I think it's just, yes.
Okay. Would any of my colleagues on the board like to comment on that? Particularly you, Mr. Smith, and your capacity. How about you, Mr. Steve? You're here and present.
I believe we have addressed that issue.
Yeah.
It's not, the question isn't what we addressed, Mr. Steve, it's, was there hundreds of thousands of gallons going into the stream? That's the question.
No, that's not what he asked.
That's not the
That's
allegation
not
you
what
made.
he asked.
You made a statement making it seem like there is currently
No,
raw sewage
no.
going.
Yes, you
that was
did.
that was
No, then I'll correct that statement. We allowed a system to go out of, in my opinion, out of spec, out of inspection.
Is it fixed now?
It's fixed now to
Okay.
tune of $40,000 or $50,000. But yet we're worried about single-use bags
I was gonna say, what is
And
sewer?
and dog kennels, that's what we're worried about?
I'll answer that question by saying we believe so.
Come on, Jeff.
Yeah, we believe it, while there's raw sewage in residents' basements.
What does that have to do with the single-use bags?
We
except
have
for
other
your complaint?
priorities here, is what I'm saying.
We already fixed it. We went through that for months.
Yeah, well, what's
It's
happening
been
so it
fixed.
doesn't happen again in a system from 1986? Nothing.
We're at wine and cheese again.
Okay. Nothing for new business, old business is
Wait a minute.
therefore.
I have something
Yes,
that
ma'am.
I wanna bring up. I know we can't do anything about it until the next time, right? If I bring it up?
Yes, ma'am. You can
I'd
ask
like to
them.
bring up the fact that I'd like to go to one meeting a month because our productivity, intentionally, when this was started to go to 2 meetings a month, we actually got a lot accomplished. At this point, it's just, let's whine about things twice, and things don't usually get fixed. You know, so I'm just bringing it up to everybody to think about it because it would save money from having to have our council here, having to have our engineer here, having to have Paula here, having to have everybody else here. So it doesn't make sense. When we did it, we actually made a lot of progress and a lot got done. Instead, now we spend 2 hours twice a month here and don't accomplish nearly what we did on one night. So I'm bringing it up for the next time, for Tuesday night. So can we put that on then? I don't care where you put it, wherever you feel like it.
Put it in either new business or in
Anywhere
supervisors.
you wanna put it, I'm perfectly happy with
We'll add
that, thank
to our
you.
next agenda.
Thank you.
Just a reminder on the ethics commission statements, due May 1st, they'll be for calendar 2024.
You did mine right away.
And then the other three, I believe we can leave for further discussion later. We have, by the way, we did update, I think there was a list of two, there's only 2 or 3 right now for the update on the website for the door-to-door solicitation. Just 2, same company. So we post to the website. You guys.
Is that it for old business?
Yes, sir.
Alright, do we need an executive session?
Joe's not here.
Tuesday, I think, is.
Yep, Joe's not here.
Tuesday?
Yep.
For whatever executive meeting.
No, I'm answering.
I'm asking you for an answer.
You're asking for a motion for it to adjourn.
Alright, do we have a motion to
I
adjourn?
guess I'm not closing that, really.
We have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If nobody else needs it.
Second? Absolutely. Alright. Motion carried.
Paula, can I trouble you for those bills, Paul?
Alright, thank you, Chris. See you, Chris.
Bye, Chris, enjoy.
Yep, see ya.
And a couple of resolutions. The resolution. Hopefully I have to do that. If I need that.
I promise I won't get anything out of them, I promise.
Set the dogs on
Busy week.
He said
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it looks so nice.
Let's do it that way, that's good, kind of white out the scribbles and.
Right, yep, okay, question marks, yep, we'll take care of that.
Yeah, it looks so nice, though, it really
I just wanna make sure I don't forget this one is 0.
One next
Oh, I know, I gotta take mine.
2019, this is very typical. We were hired,
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
right, so we came on board.
Yes,
went up there,
that's fine.
did like a
I'll
review,
update that
meeting
meeting.
with Sue.
Well, you're gonna sign 05 tonight, not 04.
I hardly see them.
So, hey, we just need to keep.
And then the warehouse.
The secretary.
Oh, for the
We didn't
trash.
catch it, she'll still have me on. I think she.
I don't take care of that. That's my sister-in-law and my husband, they handle that. I'm too busy with other stuff, so. But yeah, if you need anything, you let me know. Carl let me know. Mark said, he said, was it your toner? He said he'll give you a free.
Good night, guys. Good, you dropped that? See you, Ryan.
Yes, it came out of my bra.
Okay.
Hey, when you get better,
Said tell him I'll give him a free one.
Yeah,
Alright.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Get better. Last night was the first night I slept.
I know it.
You remember a couple times we were like, dude, I didn't have to get your card. This would be, this is the one for Carrie.
You wanna get a better pen, this thing keeps skipping.
Here, I just stole this one.
Blue one. What is it?
I just stole a new pen.
It just keeps jumping.
What I'll do.
Oh, yeah.
Is I'm gonna send this.
Recycling.
note,
To recycle
and then
really.
I'm gonna update the text of that.
Okay.
So if you wanna send
I know when I first did it,
text as well, so can you do that?
yeah.
We used to get paid to dump recycling, now we pay to dump
She had my, she still had my
recycling.
signature block on there, the test, the station, so I didn't catch that, that's, 30 pages and stuff.
Before,
And then.
bring along a garbage truck and put the recycling and the garbage in together.
I mean, that's, you can go to jail for that, I mean, that's big problems.
Yeah, they were doing it because I wanted to do it.
Yeah, we don't do that. That's not worth it.
No,
Not at all.
but
That's probably-
sometimes I don't take it down till like 7 o'clock
Yeah.
on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want it to get scattered or.
Oh, absolutely, the animals.
Yeah. It's been working out well, so.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one more here.
All right.
All right, well, you take care, good to see you too.
Where's my turn?
I'll see you on Facebook.
This needs to be authorized signer.
I didn't think I'd make it here tonight.
Oh, you got those?
No, remember they canceled my one meeting and that was tonight.
Oh.
With my EAC, my,
12?
yeah, my Rotary meeting. So I had a Rotary meeting. Yeah.
You were doing double duty, double up in town.
Oh, boy.
How you handling, how's your driveway doing in this weather?
So far, so good.
It's not bad. Can't complain.
Yeah, I do
Unless
have,
you're
oh
bored,
yeah, I don't
you
want
should
to
be
worry
doing
about
it.
that. That's like part of me, you know.
Yeah, they will.
Yes. We can do that March, and back on Tuesday for. I need to get your list.
Now we get paper straw wrapped in plastic.
Joyce, signature on.
On the disaster declaration. And then I'll shoot out. Sure. Alright, everyone's going. There's that.
No, that's just silly. For 4 places that dispense straws and cups. Correct.
But
Yeah.
what she's
They don't
wanting,
apply this
what
in
I asked her to do.
Having plastic bag issues.
Through recycling, how money is split, what comes from, how it's divvied out.
No, I just asked Joy, I said, remember when we used to have plastic straws wrapped in paper? Now we have paper straws wrapped in plastic. We did a great job.
And they're going by the wayside,
Yeah.
paper straw.
We just alternated one for the other. I thought we did something cool.
to spin by what else is going on.
Straight.
I don't care.
All right, have a good night.
I say 18.
You too. Thank you.
Hey, I saw your text message you sent out the other day about the Eagles winning. Wasn't that Eagles? Yeah. I made a comment on it. They were.
Oh, on Facebook?
Yeah. And I said,
People here from there.
I left Christmas
So,
present.
I'm up and out.
I left the Christmas present, but I left the green book.
Yeah.
I don't see the end of
We
it.
can't leave today.
Yeah, but
Why?
I gotta start, next night's day for snow, ice and snow, and it's a little warmer, I'll start taking down the lights, but there's 100 strings still. Yeah.
Good thing it's in warm weather.
Well, I usually try to,
No snow.
yeah, I usually like to turn them on during the snow, but I'm not gonna reestablish them.
Yeah.
Hey, how we doing?
I'm not gonna retire.
Well,
Not comment.
all right.
Somebody gotta go.
Hey, we want to talk some more. Where do you put it in?
Really?
Sure, why not? Oh, wait. You want more wine and cheese?
I was just dealing with, I was playing that Robo dial. It just pissed Gotcha off. Gotcha called me. He called me, he said, Paul. And he goes back, you know where that son of a bitch is? In Florida. Working remotely.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, Scott.
He's like, oh, he's an idiot.
Why would you do this, Scott?
Yeah. Yeah, that I don't know the answer to. I just know he told me that Donnie tends to get his wires crossed sometimes. And I'll tell you, because I totally said it, I said, well, so does Rich, so maybe, I said, so maybe those two men short circuit each other, and Chuck or you also. I did say that.
It's just impossible, I don't, hey, look, I won't take offense to that, trust me, I've had my wires crossed.
Maybe they hit each other and shorted each other out. That's how we are.
Tell you what, like, there's worse crap.
There's updates.
Storage areas, I know, one municipality can handle almost 1,000 tons. Which one is, I have to look.
I was gonna say, it could be spreading different.
When I was going back, when I was going back and forth with Gottschall, he was getting that list.
I gotta go.
Kenhurst Borough only has.
My updates are occurring, so I gotta wait for updates to
How much
happen.
salt does Kenhurst Borough need? Good question. Calls back, they need 3/4 of a ton of 1 ton of salt. On one store. I'm like, they're fine. But Wilmelsdorf was out. Bern was down to 20 tons.
Kenhorst had what, 3, I think? Kenhorst had 3, I only had 0, Kenhorst had 3.
So, but now Kenhurst responded, that one storm, they used 3/4 to 1 ton of salt.
Really?
Yeah. Kenhurst Borough was actually, think about it.
Yeah, it's true.
Wheel and deal, I know how that works. Okay, well, we'll see you folks, I'm getting out of
Have a
here.
good night.
Yep.
keep me company.
Yeah. Yeah, since
I
we
just
have,
had a chuckle to myself there. I was at last night, and I was moving to Ireland, and somebody asked, about housing, somewhere for housing or whatever, and somebody told them like that, do you have like a website that says that's rude.
as in daft is like,
Daft is in the name of the website, DAFT.
but daft is also a little crazy.
Yeah, that's what she thought she was calling her.
Absolutely, she was calling her daft instead of daft part of the
Instead
website.
of providing her, she was actually giving her like information like Zillow or something. Did you lose it? Alright. Well, it's wherever you feel comfortable at.
I pulled bigger than truck beds and put them on the carriages for $300.
We're done with that. Done.
Right, it is, you might spend $500 to pay a common carrier to get up here, and then they take liability for any damage. Cheaper you get. Common carrier is low.
I thought he was gonna show you that. Well, hopefully, Paul, you'll be out of here soon. As soon as he's done making his wonderful statement in front of the TV to look important. Have a nice evening, dear.
Good night.
I'll see you guys. Have a good one.
Pull left.
Paul, how much in advance are these ready? Like, would they be ready yesterday?
Some of them could, Sheila keeps it up to date. That's why it's revised on top of it, because more bills came in. Because if we don't get them in before like Tuesday for signing, the vendors have to wait until next month for them. And
And we had all kind of discussions on that, and vendors are supposed to have them in by a certain time.
and ask them.
And if they're not, that's kind of on them.
So she tries to keep it up as much up to date for the board and everything.
Yeah.
And
Whose was this? Whose was this? Okay, Jennifer.
His name's Jack.